All right, hey, and welcome back to another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. And I'm Scott Penfold here with you for another week. And a great one this week, man, is I'm going to be talking to the one and only Tomas Lindberg, frontman for Swedish death metal icons At the Gates. As far as I'm concerned, these guys are one of the most important bands in the subgenre that is death metal right now. Just an incredible, progressive, complex, awesome death metal band out of Sweden. And they've got their 7th studio album, The Nightmare of Being, which is available now. And it really shows the evolution of the band. And as always, for the second portion of the podcast, I'll be joined by Loaded Radio's own Johnny Rude, who is down there in Las Vegas, Nevada, as we will talk about the week that was in hard rock and metal, keeping you up to date with everything that's going on in rock and metal news. So stick around for that if you like. But first off, as I was mentioning, I'm going to be talking to this guy here. He is the frontman for Swedish death metal band At the Gates. The name of the new album, The Nightmare of Being, and the tracks I've heard are just absolutely insane. Thomas, thanks so much for joining me today on the Loaded Radio podcast.
Thanks for having me.
When it came to my introduction personally to At the Gates, it was when you had your comeback. And then, of course, I went backward. And from that, and listening to, I guess, some of the new tracks I've heard now is hearing just the evolution of the band. And there's so much more that seems to be a part of the band now. Like, was that a conscious decision to do that with the new album, Thomas?
It was, we were kind of, how can I say it? Every At the Gates album, as you have noticed, is different to each other. You know, there's always something new or different going on. This time we kind of decided, like, you know, we've always been a very curious band, a challenging band, I guess. Mm-hmm. And this time we wanted to, like, really hold, you know, all the boundaries open, so to say, and let's just see what comes out of it. And we also had more time and, you know, space to focus on it due to the pandemic, I think, so we can go deeper into some things. Very interesting travel, so to say, to write and record this album.
Well, certainly. It was recorded in several different Swedish studios. Now, was that mostly due to the pandemic then, Thomas? Or?
No, actually, that was mostly due to, you know, we wanted to capture each instrument differently. Okay. We wanted to work with different engineers. For example, like we worked with Angela Rock, the guitar player from King Diamond, to record the guitars.
Yes. To,
you know, get the best out of the guitar players and, you know, make them shine, you know, as much as possible. And, you know, the classical instruments recorded in a separate studio because it's, you know, getting the ambience right for those kind of instruments. So we really went, there's so much detail and layers on this record, textures.
There really
so
is.
You need to be very meticulous about the recording process to make everything, you know, audible, basically.
Certainly. Now, it was, the LP was mixed and mastered by Jens Bogren, who you worked with before with At War with Reality. Why working with Jens again?
I think, you know, we find him as a person that is very, again, I use the word meticulous, but, you know, he's very detailed and structured in his way of approaching a record. And we told him, you know, like, are you willing to take on this size of a project?
Yeah. And,
you know, this is going to be a hard journey for everybody. It's going to be a lot of work, you know, but like, it's going to be fun as well. He was really into the idea. And we kind of told him we didn't want it as clinical sounding as At War with Reality, but we still wanted like a sound that with all the details comes through, but maybe like a bit warmer analog kind of sound. And he was really into that idea because, you know, with all the more, so to say, natural instruments, the non-electrical instruments on the record, it takes it like a different, you have to take a different route to get that kind of sound to make them fit into the metal, you know?
Certainly. And I mean, comparing it to Drink from the Night itself, I mean, I found To Drink from the Night itself to be definitely suited to the old school fans, very dirty, very metal. This one has those aspects, but I find that there's more to it. How would you compare it to Drink from the Night itself?
I think To Drink from the Night itself was like one step in this direction musically. Mm-hmm. You know, we tried a lot of orchestration on that one as well. But we also felt, in a way, that we'd done that record, you know, as you say, it was darker, dirtier, more old school sounding.
Yeah.
Then we wanted to do something else again, but we didn't want to go back to that War with Reality sound totally. We wanted like somewhere in the middle there, mostly due to, you know, the different arrangements and the different orchestrations on the record. But we always want to look forward and see what we can do differently and better. And I think that's why At the Gates is still around, because we still think this is important, and we still kind of give everything on each record.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes the band special to us in that sense. If you're, our age and keep doing it, you can't just rehash stuff, so to say,
Well, you've previously stated about the album, you've called it an introduction to pessimism as a concept. It's a very dark album, but not negative, you've said. Can you expand on that? What did you mean by that exactly?
I think we talked about it very early on, that we wanted the album to be very cinematic, progressive, and dark at the same time. Mm-hmm. Delving into the pessimist theories and philosophies, I kind of realized that, At the Gates is a very emotional band. We thrive on these emotions, and one of them that we wanted to portray, especially on this album, was desperation. Mm-hmm. And of course, pessimism is kind of like what some writers have called the graveyard of philosophy a little bit. Right. But you can't have desperation without some hope, because otherwise it's just dark and more depressive, so to say. So we wanted to still give it that little searchlight into the future. Where can we take this? Is there some hope for the poor lost human soul? And that creates that desperate ambience in the music that we like.
Awesome, man. And one of the songs that certainly stands out for me is The Fall Into Time, just very, very epic sounding. What can you tell me about that song? We
wanted to try to construct, as you say, a little bit more like an epic theme on this one. We always had that before as well. We have Daggers of Black Haze on the last album.
Yes.
You have the Night Eternal. Going back, you had Neverwhere, All Life Ends, all like these big epic tracks. And we wanted a centerpiece for the record. And, we're old school people. We wanted the first track on side B to be that epic, which is Fall Into Time. Jonas early on had this idea of this really big orchestrations for a beginning of a song. It also would have a bit more slower, dragging kind of vibe to the whole song. But then he came up with this middle part of it, the more progressive part. And then we weren't sure, if they were in the same kind of emotional aspect, so they should fit. But it became one of the longest songs on the record, as you say. But it's one of the proudest moments on the record, I think, because we're doing so much different stuff on one track that we never done before.
Yeah, absolutely. Another song that I'd say would be almost like an opposite to that one would be The Paradox, straight up classic sounding, great sounding At the Gates. What can you tell me about that song?
Well, that was one of the first songs written, actually, before, that was almost before we had the whole concept in place and everything,
Oh, wow.
So that was written very early on, and the first demo stages of the versions of the song. So we kind of let it rest for a bit, and then we went back to it and kind of went over it. And then that's why you have these more, what do we call, Merciful Fate kind of vibes, in the middle of the solo and everything. And we kind of realized that we never done At the Gates, how can I say it, 2.0, because as you say, it's classic At the Gates in some ways, but we could have never written a song like that in 95, because it has all these different other things in it as well, but it still works as a death metal song. Yeah. I think that's a little bit how the trademark At the Gates will sound now, from now on. You know what I mean? Yeah. But from the beginning, we wrote the album, sequenced it very well. But both Jens and Andy and Per, who records my vocals as well, they were all but Paradox has to be number 2 on the record. You can't hide it on side B. Okay. So we are actually having it on side B to start with, because we had worked on the song for so long, you get a little bit tired of it. But it was actually their fault, so to say. We actually listened to someone outside the band for once.
Now, do you feel like you've actually become the King Crimson of death metal?
I don't know. I mean, those kind of bands, those kind of players, honestly, we will never reach their level of musicality ever, Right. It's a whole different league of playing, but at least now we could handle our King Crimson influences better than we could in the beginning of the band. I mean, on The Redness Guy Is Ours, we probably thought we were the King Crimson of death metal, even though we could barely play it, you know?
Right, yeah.
Youthful, obnoxious naivety. But now we know a little bit better where we are. We're also more connected to what At the Gates is, you know, what's central to the At the Gates sound. So we won't lose track of that. And therefore, together with them, you know, like more maturity in the songwriting department, we could actually pursue some of these influences, you know, but not on the same level as King Crimson themselves, of course.
Well, just even you were mentioning going back to your early days, going back to, I guess, the early 90s, it would have been, you were described as, you know, the part of the Gothenburg sound of melodic death metal. How would you explain that?
It's hard to like take an outside perspective on it, but I think that, you know, me and Alf, the original guitar player, came from another band called Grotesque. That was basically like the only death metal band in Gothenburg at the time.
Right.
When that band broke up, you know, there was a lot of bands in Stockholm and spread out over the country. But, you know, when we formed At the Gates, and then like a few years after, Dark Tranquillity and In Flames formed after us, we were the only band that was starting out, and we had a different approach to it. We wanted some more, you know, melodic aspects, more progressive elements in the music, because we'd already done the death metal, like the old school death metal with Grotesque. You know, we couldn't go any further with that. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I think other bands in Gothenburg they went to our shows, got our demos, and was like, oh yeah, you can do this. And they, you know, started. But I think all those Gothenburg early bands have a different, you know, sound to them. Mm-hmm. The only thing is that they are all like a little bit more melodic, maybe than the Stockholm sound.
Right.
But they don't really, you know, you can't, you know, put them next to each other. You know, you will always know if it's Dark Tranquillity or At the Gates or In Flames. We're all different. But I guess that, you know, a little bit more eclectic approach to death metal songwriting might be like the cornerstone of the sound, I guess.
Certainly so, yeah, because it's very, very different sounding bands, like you said. But, you know, even just going back to 1996, I've always wanted to ask this. I mean, you guys had such a really like a huge hit with Slaughter of the Soul. And just right after it hit, the Bueller brothers decided to leave the band and you guys called it quits. What happened back then? You
have to remember that when Slaughter of the Soul was released, I think Adrian was the oldest guy in the band and he was 23.
Yeah.
And we had released 4 records already. You can imagine, you can count backwards and see how young we were when we started, you know?
Right.
And, you know, I mean, of course, if you look back now, you could see it Slaughter of the Soul as like a success. But I mean, it was still an underground thing then, you know? Mm-hmm. The real success that's happened after, maybe also a little bit because we broke up, you know, like the legend status, if the band is breaking up. But I think in general, it was hard for us. We had kind of like during so early formative years, compressed our sound more and more from the really weird early days, you know, as the records progressed, they became more and more, you know, streamlined, focused, whatever. And you couldn't really go any further than Slaughter of the Soul in that direction.
Right.
And we felt pressure by the label and to tour a lot and also to like pretty quickly follow up with another album. And if you're 22 years old, it was we didn't know what to do basically, you know, and probably also, you know, now we're grown up and we could be more diplomatic. We listen more to each other,
sure.
And we're good friends. We were good friends back then as well, but the band was important for different reasons for the different members, I think, you know, like we had different visions of where we wanted to take it. Nowadays we can talk about that and like, you know, do a really good compromise as you noticed on the new record. But
certainly,
but back then, compromises were harder, I guess, you know.
Now, are you still a teacher of social studies?
Yes. The summer holidays started like Friday. So
that's great. So how long have you been doing that for, Thomas?
About 10 years.
Wow. That's excellent, man. I mean,
5 years in the university, of course. Yeah.
And did you get students that are fans of the band?
Not really that much. I mean, I teach like 15, 16-year-olds and we're out in what you would call the socially, economically challenged neighborhoods.
Oh, I understand.
They mostly listen to hip hop, basically.
Gotcha.
But I mean, they think it's cool, you know, that their teacher has something else beside the classroom. But I mean, and they have better, you know, understanding of how many likes and whatever.
Oh wow!
I don't look at, but they think that's cool, but they don't understand the music.
If only they understood the importance of Slaughter the Soul. It's you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's important for some people, and it's a very it's an underground phenomenon, I guess.
Yeah. Now, what's the status of your other band, The Great Deceiver?
Oh, The Great Deceiver has actually not been around for quite a while now. It's hard to explain. That band kind of imploded. We had these great ideas, these great visions for the band.
Yeah.
But I think, that's a band that has a very few hardcore fans. They really, really like it because it was different.
Yeah.
But like the most of the people didn't get what we were doing at all. After the last album there on Death Wish Records, we kind of just felt like, we'd done what we could. We At the Gates was doing a lot with the reunion. The other guys got kids and stuff, so it's kind of like just imploded silently, I guess.
Again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, and man, I cannot wait for July 2nd. Cannot wait to hear the whole album, man.
There's a lot of stuff on there. But just remember to give it like 10 spins before you decide what you think.
I certainly will. Thanks again, Thomas, and hopefully we'll see you on the road at some point soon.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. Thank you.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
And there he is. That's Tomas Lindberg. He is the frontman for At the Gates, and the name of the new album is called The Nightmare of Being. But I'm Scott Penfold, and as we continue now, the Loaded Radio podcast, I'm being joined by Loaded Radio's own Johnny Rude, live from Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're going to talk about the week that was hard rock and metal. John, you got anything in news this week?
I was looking up some news.
Yeah.
And I was looking for news, and I just saw this stuff, which I do know about, the churches that are burning.
Yeah, up in Canada here, yeah.
Yeah, is that a big deal up there?
It's been on the news. I mean, there's been some people that have obviously jumped to the assumption that it's involved black metal, and it's not. It's really just about some pretty shitty history.
Yeah, it's the indigenous, the colonialism with the indigenous people. Yeah, I'm well aware of what it is, but are people actually, going back to the Norwegian of the 90s. So people actually using that or saying that, or are idiots doing that? Like they're using that as sort of a scapegoat. Hey, no, it's black metal. They aren't, are they?
No, they're not. But I'm sure that a lot of online presences are going to jump all over that as a headline grabber. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that it's more, everybody up here is just reflecting on the history and being more, I guess, awakened as to what happened up here in Canada.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really, it's really, really sad and unfortunate. So there's obviously a lot of people that were grieving for Canada Day. They didn't really celebrate Canada Day anywhere up here.
I heard. We have 4th of July today, so happy 4th of July. But yeah, I heard there was no big celebrations as they were using it. It's more of a mourning day because of the discovery of all this. It's brutal, dude.
It is.
From what I've read. Yeah, it's horrible. But just the fact that someone would take that and start using it as, hey, they're burning churches, black metal. Give me a break.
So some of these online presences, they'll jump on anything. I'm not going to name names, but they'll just jump on like, oh, Corey Taylor took a shit yesterday, so that's big news. Right. It's just they'll just jump on anything. Oh, a church burned down. Well, hey, let's publish a big story.
The black metal stuff. Anyways, I was just reading a little bit about that, and I just thought, maybe I'll throw this one to you and just
it's nothing to do with black metal. It just has to do with an unfortunate history, really, essentially. There really hasn't been much in the way of news this week. I mean, Megadeth frontman Dave Mustaine is now on Cameo, where you can now pay. His first price tag was $150. Now it's $250. You pay that on Cameo, and then you get a video message from Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. So that's
the big news. A lot of guys, Sebastian Bach, he's a big proponent of that. He loves doing it.
Yeah, I think there's like 40,000 celebrities on this thing now, and you pay whatever amount the celebrity, I guess, establishes, and then you get a video message. So Dave Mustaine's $250, which isn't too bad. I mean, David Ellefson was on there before, and he was only $25.
Yeah, he might be free. I maybe I don't know, $25. That's
don't pull an Ellison, especially in front of a computer screen. I guess there was some kind of big news when it comes to Queensryche. As longtime Queensryche guitarist Parker Lundgren has vacated the band. Apparently, he just wants to work on other stuff. Like I think he's got a guitar shop he wants to work on. He's just not feeling Queensryche anymore. But I mean, it's amicable. The split is amicable.
He's not the original guy.
He's not. He's been. He played with Jeff Tate and Jeff Tate's solo band before he got the gig with Queensryche.
I saw them here at an outside venue, maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah,
I saw them with Todd LaTorre. He's pretty good, dude, and he's also a wicked drummer. He
played drums on the new
album. Sat in for Stryper. Oh, did he?
Because Rockenfield is no longer with the band right now. He hasn't played with them for 4 years. So
that's right. He had a kid and he quit or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so LaTorre laid down the drums on the new album.
He's good.
He's great,
good, dude. He's really good. He actually hopped up on and did Soldiers Under Command for Stryper on one of those rock cruises, and he nailed it.
Oh, that's great. That's a great song too.
Oh yeah, fantastic tune. I got some. Well, here in Vegas, everything's opening up. Much to the chagrin of some people with this new variant flying around, but it's opening up. Sammy Hagar has announced a residency here at the Strat. It's very cool. It's not going to be as he says, it's not going to be your normal residency where he can just plays, song after song, hit after hit. Every show is going to be different. This is according to Sammy. And it's like when you go to Cabo, if you ever go and see Sammy, if you ever go on vacation and go to one of his bashes there, he's got his backup band, which consists of Michael Anthony from Van Halen. Yep. But it's a free-for-all. It's a jam. Vinnie Paul used to just get up there and play. So he's doing the same thing that he does in Cabo, he's doing here. And he had a certain run of tickets and he didn't know, people are asking him how long are you going to do this for? There's no set time, 3 weeks, a month, 6 months. Yeah. It's basically however long it works and however long people want me to do this, I'll be doing it. So we put a set amount of tickets out. They sold out immediately and a new block came on. So he's here at least till November. Which is killer, dude. I'm
here on loaderradio.com right now, and Hagar is inviting guests like Toby Keith, Rick Springfield, Kenny Chesney, Vince Neil, Jerry Cantrell, Malice in Chains. So there's going to be a lot of great guests on this thing as well. And the Strat, I know for a fact because I've stayed at the Strat before. The amount of work they put into that place, I'd like to see what the Strat looks like. Have you been to the Strat lately?
I haven't been lately, but I went before this pandemic happened, and it's a complete overhaul. It's really nice. I did a Halloween party there with the guys from Hell Yeah. And,
yes. DJ Ashba, I think DJ Ashba had a store in there.
He had a store, and it was sort of at the top in the back when you went up the elevators to go up to the restaurant. It's gone now, but obviously because of the pandemic and stuff. But it was it's definitely cool. It's you have to keep up with the Joneses here, and I stayed at the Strat many moons ago, and it was cool, but it was definitely dated. Now it's up there.
I think it's going to be great, and I hope Sammy stays there for a while. I just think any live show that I can announce or that I can go to at this point, I think is great, dude.
It's really cool. Another little quick note on this: Resorts World opened last Thursday, and this thing is a monolithic casino. It's huge. They did a pre-opening at 7:00 for celebs and whatnot, and there's 4 hotel companies in there, and one of them being Hilton. And so they had Paris Hilton in there doing her fake DJ stuff.
Oh, God.
So they've got a lot of the top talent, but it's quite something. I have not been. It's roasting hot here, and it's if you can stay in. But that's going to open up that corridor. That's the north end, and right across the street is another hotel that sort of went defunct when the market crashed back in 2008, 9, and 10. That's called the Drew. That's going to be opening up, I think, next year. But this Resorts World, dude, it's right across from Peppermill. So hopefully they're saying that little dark area in the north end and the rebranding of the Strat, et cetera, it's going to bring some new life there. But all that aside, yes, the Sammy Hagar coming full circle here. I think that's, for anybody, the fact that it's sold out that quick is awesome, I think it's great.
Yeah, it shows that there's a hunger for live performances, man. People want to go to shows. And Johnny, of course, being in the hub of entertainment in Las Vegas, it's just so awesome to have all these concerts coming back. And again, check loadedradio.com, hit the tour section daily. I'm constantly seeing it get updated with all these new shows. And I just think it's absolutely awesome. So loadedradio.com, that is where you got to go. Updated constantly with your news. And we, of course, have the 24-hour stream there for you as well. John, am I forgetting anything?
Well, no, I think we're good, dude. I would just say the M3 Festival happened. It happened yesterday, and I think it was a success.
Yes, that's right. Queensryche took the stage with their former guitar player, Mike Stone. Heard about that. And as well, our good buddy, AJ. And,
with Adler.
With Adler, AJ St. James. Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah, it was the who's who of that era, the Monsters of Rock era, I guess, cruise stuff. It's all those same bands, Kix, Queensryche, Adler. I don't know, Brittany Fox, who knows? Just right. that sort of vibe of bands. And I think it's great that they're out there. It was outside, which made it okay. I'm not sure of the attendance at this point. But yeah, it went off yesterday. And that's another positive thing moving forward to getting live music out there. I can't see something like that yet being inside, but it was outside. So I'll hear about it, from AJ, and maybe we'll discuss a little bit about how it went next week.
We will. And of course, another thing we're going to be doing next week, John, is we're going to be going over the results for the voting that we've had up at loadedradio.com for the last month for who people think is the most influential hard rock or metal band of all time.
Right.
Check out the website, vote for the most influential, who you believe are the most influential hard rock and metal artists of all time. And Johnny and I, again, will talk about them on the next podcast. Some great results too, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah, man, awesome. It is interesting. Everyone's got their fave, so to speak.
So there we go. On behalf of Johnny Rude and everybody else at loadedradio.com, we'll talk to you again next week right here on the Loaded Radio podcast.
Loaded Radio.